Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of For Checking TV. I'm your co-host, Doug Glackey, and alongside me is my co-host, Scotty Porterfield. Scotty, how we doing?
Oh, what a day, Dougie. Had a beautiful day on the golf course this afternoon. Got to spend some quality time with some family and friends. And most of all, it's been a very interesting 48 hours or so for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Made some attention grabbing moves. And, I know we were very pessimistic heading into that season. And I won't say I'm completely optimistic, but I'm a little I'm a little intrigued now to see what the team has in store for us here in 24-25.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And with that, we're just going to get into this now. Earlier this week, the Pittsburgh Penguins acquired forward prospect Rutger McGroarty from the Winnipeg Jets in exchange for forward prospect Braden Yeager. I just to start, I think that this is a massive trade. This might be one of the biggest trades the Penguins have done, well, since Eric Carlson. But this is probably one of the more important trades that Dubas has done in his entire tenure here. Um, and the biggest thing with McGroarty is he's a 6'2 forward. He's a left winger that but also can somewhat profile as a center. He's 6'1", 205 pounds. He was the 14th overall pick 2 years ago of the Winnipeg Jets, and he was the captain of the United States World Junior Championship team this year. And I think that he's NHL ready from the jump. The biggest thing that was going around as to why he wanted out of Winnipeg was that they have a lot of forwards in Winnipeg, and he was going to have to go play in Winnipeg or in the AHL with Manitoba. And I think that he really kind of wanted to not do that. I think that everybody knew that this guy's an NHL ready player, and he saw a lot of his World Junior teammates getting like 10 game tryouts or vast majority of the rest of the regular season playing on teams that had either acquired them or drafted them. And I think McGroarty realized, okay, like I need to make a move in order to reassure my long-term future. He signed his 3-year ELC here, 3 years, 950,000 AAV. Um, he's, I, I think that Scotty, I think that this is a guy that right off the hop, like day one, he's playing with Sidney Crosby and Brian Ross.
I absolutely agree. I mean, when you see what this guy, I mean, he has a tough physical game that I love to see. And I think it's going to be great to have him alongside with Sid. I think that's one of the things that the Penguins have really been missing in recent years of guys who can, do damage with and without the puck. And he just seems to play. He's got a big body on him. I really like what he can bring to the table. And I think he'd be a great fit alongside Stid and Russ. I think that's going to be the best thing the Penguins can do, honestly, to really maximize his potential. And I think that, this could be a very interesting move because obviously, you know, the Penguins have struggled to find that winger. It could have been tough to try and replace Jake Gensel. Now it seems like it's going to be a lot easier with this McGroarty kid. And I think, plugging him in with Sid and watching those two go to work together, it could be something special.
Yeah, and with McGroarty, I think the best way to compare him is like he profiles as a Patrick Hornquist type player, but with more raw skill. Um, which I think that that's exactly what Sid needs at this stage of his career. And that's exactly what the Penguins need in terms of identity. Um, because we saw the complete 180 that they did once Michael Bunting came around. Um, they went on that huge run at the end of the year. Um, fell a game or two short. It is what it is, but I think that they finally came to the realization that they need guys that not only have a good bit of skill to their game, but are also not afraid to like push people around and play that run and gun physical style that is starting to come back and become more and more prevalent across the entirety of the NHL.
Yeah, you got to have grit to your game nowadays in the league. And like you said before, bringing Michael Bunting into the fold was a huge part of that. You saw that he was willing to go to the dirty areas and make things happen. He's always been that type of player in his career. And now that you already have Bunting playing on the second line, and now you bring in McGroarty to play a similar game to really solidify the grit that your top six needs. This is a step in the right direction for the Penguins. And I like this move by Kyle Dubas. It really should solidify, hey, they're not a physical team. That they are a physical team, excuse me. I think that's been one of the knocks on the Penguins in recent years is the fact that, the stipulation is, oh, they're an easy team to push around. Well, that's not going to be the case anymore with these two guys on the team. So it's going to be a great addition for Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, the biggest thing that everybody I feel like has said about Pittsburgh for I want to say a good 5, 6, 7 years now is yeah, it's going to be a fast-paced game. You're going to get your cardio and you're going to run around a lot, but you're not going to come out of the game like feeling any sort of anything really. Like when you go play Florida, you go play Dallas, you go play whoever else could think of that plays that physical style. You're you're going in expecting to have the living shit kicked out of you every single night for 60 minutes, and you're expecting to wake up the next morning in pain. That for years that had not been the case with the Penguins. And it really hasn't probably been the case since 2018. But I think that they're getting more and more in the right direction. Not only is this a great move for Rutger McGroarty's progression and whatnot, it's a great move for the Penguins because it gives them that top line option with Crosby, like I said, and it bumps Drew O'Connor back down the third line. Um, Obviously, there's still some work to do. I think the hope/anticipation is they move out 1 to 2 bottom six forwards before the beginning of training camp or before the conclusion of training camp. And your third line, you're basically rocking a mini kid line. You're rocking Drew O'Connor, Cody Glass, and Valtteri Pustin.
No complaints on that front. Obviously,
Yeah.
you see how great DOC slotted in on the top six. And while he did a good job there, he's a guy you need as a more of a top nine type of player. So you put him in that depth role and you put him with Cody Glass, who we have to mention as well, got acquired from Nashville, as well as Valtteri Puustinen. That really solidifies the scoring depth that the Penguin team needs. And it's something they haven't had. Again, and like we mentioned in recent years, they've struggled to find it. So if you're able to get this going, I really like what they could do with it.
Yeah. I mean, like I was texting you recently. I'm fired up about the Cody Glass move. Like I was ready to roll before they did the McGroarty thing. I think that might end up being a very, very good trade for the Penguins from a value perspective because they got compensated to take on the guy, one, and two, if he rejuvenates his game, like that's going to be somebody that you can move up and down the lineup, similar to what they did with Evan Rodriguez and Jared McCann all those years ago. Um, you know, and I think that Cody Glass is in a fairly similar situation to what Jared McCann was when he came over here from Florida. He's been traded a couple times, never really found his footing anywhere he's been. He's shown flashes of greatness, and I think he's just looking for the right coach to bring that out of him. So like why not, you know, I'm I'm putting my money on Mike Sullivan being able to figure this guy out and turn him into a very, very intriguing top nine option for them.
Absolutely. And you talked about it too a little bit. We touched on it a little bit before we started recording, was just there's a lot of Swiss Army knife guys on this team, a lot of plug and play guys who can play multiple roles. I think that's what's giving the Penguins a huge advantage here is the fact that they have those guys that can step into the game. And it doesn't matter if they're playing, third line minutes or if they're playing with Sid or Gino. It seems as though they have those guys that can help them in any situation. So, like you said, Cody Glass seems, has shown his flashes of brilliance. And again, maybe it's just the coach that needs to get it done. Maybe it's finding the right scheme or the right line mates to make him effective. but I really think that this is a place where he can blossom, and hopefully the Penguins can make some magic with him.
Yeah, and that's another thing that you bring back to back when they were contending is what was it every single night? Every single night, but once that lineup got posted like 6:45, especially in the playoffs, you had no idea what you were going to get. Like you had no idea whether or not like Carl Hagelin was sitting for Josh Archibald or Carter Rowney was playing over like somebody big in that bottom six. Like
But it was
I
going to
know
work. That was the thing. It was going to work.
that was yes, like it got to the point where you would trust Mike Sullivan with your life. And at any other glance, you're going to see people bitching and moaning about the lineup when it was posted at that time. But if you watched the games and you were locked into it, you knew no matter what he rolled out there, they were going to play the way that he wanted them to play. And they were going to go be tough in puck battles, create a bunch of commotion, and drive possession.
Literally. And I think that's kind of where that lineup seems to be getting back to, is like it was clearly established, who your guys were and what their roles were going to be. That's not the case now. I feel like this has now become a lineup where we can slot so in wherever. I think that's and when you're able to have throughout your lineup or however you may do it, man, your team becomes really scary to play against.
Yeah. And the other thing that we brought up before we started recording is 11 of the 12 forwards, when they're fully rocking and rolling and they're on their game, can play at any spot in this lineup, as well as there might become a time in the middle of the year where they're all running and playing to the best of their abilities. And all 11 of the 12, with the exception of Blake Lizotte, you could put on the power play in some capacity on the second unit, and nobody would bat an eye.
No, that's power play, penalty kill. There are guys who just have it all. They can, they have all these intangibles and all the little skills that it takes to be effective. And again, I'm so excited to see what Selly tries to throw together and what sort of combinations they try and make out of this, because man, you have a lot of options that you have on your plate going forward.
Yeah, And the other thing about it is they still have a lot of depth at Wilkes-Barre and as well as in the press box, because you're gonna have Matt Nieto coming off LTIR at some point. I'm not really sure what they'll do with him, but we'll see. They might play him, they might put him on waivers, they might trade him. My personal preference is you trade him. You find somewhere out west that needs a guy like Matt Nieto and you trade him. But like they're probably going to carry two healthy scratch forwards this year. My anticipation is that your 13 and 14 forwards are going to be Jonathan Gruden and Jesse Puljujärvi.
Mm-hmm.
And Puljujärvi is somebody you could plug in on any of the four lines, and I would see it pop up on a 6:45 Penguins lineup notification, and I'd be fired up to see him play.
Oh yeah, I mean he proved how he could help the team out last year, and how he could, whether it's playing with Gino or again getting those bottom 6 minutes. The kid can play wherever they need him to, and
Yeah.
We didn't think twice about it. So
Yeah,
I think
and it's going to
there.
be fascinating. Sorry to cut you off. It's going to be
You're good.
fascinating to watch him play with actual centers that know how to drive possession, because they didn't have that last year. Like most of the time he was playing with Jeff Carter, and it was just like, out of all due respect to Jeff Carter, like you could tell he was at the end of the road.
Yeah.
And with Gruden, he's he's a Sullivan plug and play guy. Like he plays a certain style and he sticks to it. Like he's probably your 24-25 equivalent of Carter Rowney,
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just wherever I need you.
you know. And then they have two of the guys that they got for Gensel, Vili Koivunen and Vasily Ponomarev are both guys that could see time at the NHL level this year, as well as Emil Bemstrom, who I'll be honest with you, I like Emil Bemstrom's game. I loved him as a prospect. I think that that might potentially be a guy you can get more out of in the long term. Now that you have people in the bottom six that are capable of driving possession and are not a black hole in almost every facet of their game,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean, he had those flashes where he could, or it seemed like he could be effective on that team. And again, it's just having the, it's so many times it's just having the right guys around you to succeed. And
exactly.
obviously, Pittsburgh hasn't had that the last couple of years. Hopefully, this year's going to be different based on what they've added so far. But again, it's about making those other guys better, and I think they can do that.
Yeah, you know. And on the defensive side of the puck, they had a very interesting PTO signing this week. They signed Nikolai Nizov to a PTO. And the thing that makes that very intriguing is the fact that he was a guy under David Quinn who was able to play a solid defensive game as well as he was paired with Eric Carlson the year he won the Norris. So, there's a chance that if he makes the roster, he's going to play with Carlson and him and Carlson are going to be able to like chef it up a little bit.
Mm. Yeah, when you brought that up to me, I didn't know that he'd played with Carlson in his Norris campaign. So if you have that if you have that ability to where, okay, now he doesn't have to necessarily play with Pedersen and you can put Pedersen back with Letang, man, he's yeah, that can create a lot of really good problems for your defense.
Yeah.
I mean, they can do a lot of damage with that.
Yeah. And then your options for your third pairing, I mean, you can Frankenstein it together whatever way you want. At that point, you're going to have Ryan Graves, Matt Grzelcyk, Sebastian Aho, Ryan Shea, and Jack St. Ivany.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of options to solidify that bottom pairing. And with all those options there, you have to figure that Sully and Quinn will be able to find that perfect bottom pairing to roll out on a regular basis and have
Yeah.
them shut down whoever they need to
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah. And in an ideal world, they use some of these picks to try and move out Graves.
Oh yeah.
You know,
What would you say? We had 18 of them over the next 2 seasons,
they have
correct?
18 over the next two drafts. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get them going.
Granted, I don't really want to blow all those picks on or I don't want to blow most of those higher picks on a cap dump simply because they have Wes Clark running their draft table now. And they'll
Hmm.
be able to really, really start getting a lot of good quality entities within the organization. Um, but if he's able to find a taker, do it. You know.
Absolutely. Whatever it takes. That's right.
And then the goaltending, I mean, Ned's okay. I like him. I would not have paid him $2.5 million a year, but it is what it is. He's honestly one of the only reasons that they were able to keep it that close towards the end. So, it is
Yeah,
what it is.
that's right.
And then you have Jari, who, I mean, when he's on, and when he's off, he just doesn't. He's just horrible. Like,
Oh yeah.
and he's one of those players that can't handle, he can't handle when he sucks.
Yeah,
You know,
that is one thing that bugs me with Jari is because we've seen the man play all-star caliber goaltending. I mean, there are times whenever, you'll see these mock lineups that they come up with for Team Canada, and Tristan Jari would be
and
on
he's the
them.
number one goalie.
Yes, and then like he'll go on a stretch like he did last year, and he's not even the third string.
Right.
Like it's stuff like that. So, you see what you see what he's capable of and what he can do. But man, when that switch is off, it is off, and you got to start calling the electric company because
And,
that's what it takes to turn it back on.
and let me tell you, Tristan Jarry being the number one goalie for Team Canada is not a badge of honor for Tristan Jarry. That's just an indictment on how god awful the nation of Canada has been at developing goaltending since Carey Price.
Pretty much, honestly.
Because like the thing with USA is you have like five number ones.
Yeah, literally, you can't really go wrong with them.
Like you could like because you have Swayman, Ottinger, Hellebuck, and then whoever else.
All right,
Um,
plenty of them out there.
yeah, no, but back to the goaltending thing. I think the biggest catalyst of this year, like the X factor, is Joel Blomqvist. Like, I have this weird feeling that this is gonna end up like 15-16 with Murray, where it's like by the time the trade deadline rolls around, they're gonna have no choice other than to run three goalies. And everybody's gonna be fresh, everybody's gonna be chilling, and they're gonna just keep stacking if they're winning.
Yeah, I mean, if he plays well enough down in Wilkes to force management's hand and say, hey, you guys have to play me at the NHL level, I'm all for it.
And that's another thing. That's like that might just be the push they need. It's like the fact that they'd have this young kid up here that teams don't have film on.
Right.
I mean, that's basically what happened with Murray.
Yeah.
Well, it's at least what happened with Murray in 2016.
Hmm.
In 17, from the Washington series on, the dude just like went God mode.
Right.
But I don't know. I think that they're in such an interesting spot, and like if the core stays okay. Like if there's a chance, if we luck out and there's a chance that Crosby and Malkin both look like their old selves, and like they're both able to put up, like Sid's still putting up 90 points and Malkin's at least able to put up 70, things might get really, really interesting.
Yeah. I
Like,
mean, it's always going to come back to those guys too. But yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, and the thing that's awesome is like tip your cap to Kyle Dubas because like for the first time in almost a decade, we actually have a general manager who stuck to a plan. He
mhm.
said that they weren't rebuilding. He said they're going to try and stockpile picks and assets and still try and win at the same time. And he's done both pretty masterfully.
And it would have been really easy to say, okay, never mind. I can't. Yeah, I was wrong. We can't do this. Let's just start from scratch. So the fact that he is,
Right.
stuck to his guns and said, okay, I'm gonna see this out for better or for worse. Kudos to him
Right.
because he
Any,
was taken on the chin last season too. I mean,
oh
everybody
yeah.
was ripping him for the longest time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And the whole thing with Dubas is like, he might be one of the only executives in the sport that's able to pull this off. Any other general manager would be in the office at UPM's at the practice facility, monkey and symbols, saying they need to trade the core. So, I mean, the other thing with Dubas that I love is like just the transparency of it. He basically said right off the hop, hey, we might not make the playoffs this year, but like next year and beyond, if everybody stays locked in and here, we're going for it.
Right.
Like now more than ever, I know I alluded to it the last time we recorded. I said like they're gonna have one more shot at this where they go out last dance style. Now more than ever, I think that's where we're gonna be
Hmm.
at some point in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Next year might be it because like who knows what the future holds with Malkin once his contract expires. He may go back to Magnitogorsk. Potentially.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna pivot forward. Um, I'm gonna cover some other stuff that happened. The Blues offer sheeted Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway from the Oilers, and that created a ripple effect where the Oilers cap dumped Cody Ceci in a third to San Jose for Ty Emberson. I thought that was an interesting trade for them because Ty Emberson's a really, really good like depth third pairing defensive defenseman. And that's going to be something that they need because he's cheap and he's able to just play his position well. That's a perfect seamless replacement for Vinny Desharnais, who signed with Vancouver this offseason.
Hmm.
And
Yeah. I
then,
mean, that's
yeah,
just that's
go
yeah,
ahead.
absolutely. That's all. I was just agreeing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's probably the game plan for them.
yeah, and then they're going to replace Holloway with Vasily Podkolzin. Traded a fourth round pick for him. Um, that's another interesting player who never really got his footing in Vancouver, who might be able to, you know, find his stride in another market. Um, as well as earlier last month, they traded Ryan McLeod to the Sabres for Matthew Savoy. Savoy's a very interesting prospect. That's a guy that I would just throw with McDavid right away and see if he can put up points.
Yeah, I mean they've done in the past with just throwing randoms up with Connor McDavid before, but you have a guy who's at least an established prospect and has shown great potential to see, just roll the dice with him and McDavid together. I think that'd be a good combination for sure.
Throwback to that year he made Ty Ratty look like a superstar. Um,
That's right. Yes.
and then the other big trade that happened was the Blue Jackets finally traded Patrick Laine. It was Laine and a second and 26 to Columbus for Jordan Harris. Again, very similar to that of the CC dump. They get another very intriguing depth defenseman who's capable of playing to Columbus's standards, probably in their top four. So
Oh yeah.
and Jordan Harris is young enough and is good enough of a puck mover where I think that he could find his stride in Columbus and, figure it out. I mean, I wouldn't bet on it though, because like, let's be real, Columbus is probably like the worst place to go in the league right now. Like that place is like in the depths of hell in terms of organizational structure.
No, yeah. They are. The fact that Johnny Gaudreau was willing to sign there, like just willingly, just was willing to go there, still
Yeah.
amazes me. Just
And
tells you how badly he won out of Calgary.
yeah, which is just unbelievable, you know. And then there was that, I don't know, did you see that random rumor go around that like there was a big group of the Blue Jackets core that wanted them to like trade Lina like
I
years
had
ago?
not seen that. No, I had not
Yeah.
seen that rumor.
The core group of it was hilarious. It was like Cam Atkinson, Seth Jones, all guys that just aren't there anymore,
Hmm.
who at that point, in my opinion, had zero room to say anything about anybody based on their play. you know?
Yeah, just more to do with tenure than anything else.
Right. Right. Exactly. It's almost like that time that Craig Adams fought Malkin in the middle of practice for literally no reason. You know,
Hmm.
which I don't know. I just I don't know that stuff doesn't sit well with me. But Montreal's looking interesting in the long term, man, because they have that great core with like Slavkovsky, Suzuki, Cole Caulfield. They have like Caden Gooley. They have a good goalie prospect. His name's Jacob Fowler. He's going to be a really, really good get for them in the long term. They have a very interesting forward group. Obviously, they're definitely not a playoff team. They have still a ways to go, but they're going to be fun to watch. Um, because they're getting close on having more cap space open up, as well as they're close on um I mean they're hitting on a lot of draft picks. You know, they hit on Lane Hudson, they hit on Gooley. Um in my opinion, they hit on David Reinbacher. I know that is yet to be seen, but in my opinion, David Reinbacher is probably going to end up very similar to what Moritz Seider is for the Red Wings. And then, I mean, they have Demidov.
Hmm.
So next year your top six is going to be, or like not this year coming, but the year after, it's going to be Slavkovsky, Suzuki, Caulfield, and then like Demidov, whoever the center is going to be between Kirby Doc and Alex Newhook and Patrick Laine. Like I
Yeah,
think that
I mean,
that's
Pat. I mean, this is
huge.
going to be. Oh, absolutely. It's gonna be. Montreal's definitely taking the steps in the right direction. Like you said, they've been drafting really well. Bringing Line into the fold here is going to make things really interesting to see. That creates a lot more offensive depth for those guys more that they have even more. I really like where Montreal's going. I agree with you in the sense that they're not going to be a playoff team just yet, but they're definitely on the way there.
Yeah, I think they're still going to be a lottery team. Just due to the goaltending. Sam Montembeau is great in spurts, but he's off enough of the time for them to still get a lottery pick. And I think if they get a good lottery pick this year, that's going to make a world of difference for them. As
Easily.
well as like, let's be real, dude. Like they're getting built up enough to the point now where this is going to become a free agent destination again.
Easily. Without a
You
doubt.
know,
Yeah.
because like I already went through the top six for next year. Your wingers on the third line, it's going to be Harvey Pinard and Joshua Waugh. You just got to find a center to run with them, or somebody to move Kirby Doc down. You know, um, I think they're interesting. And then the other big trade that happened in the NHL this week was Yaroslav Askarov getting traded from Nashville to San Jose. Um, they got a they got a minor league goalie, a forward prospect, and a first round pick. Um, the Vegas pick is top 10 protected, which I love this trade for San Jose. I think they did really, really good. I know that there's a lot of big question marks about how Askarov is just like in terms of like professionalism or whatever the hell they want to call it. But he's probably the best goalie prospect in the league since Carey Price. you know, um, and I think that this is a good move for San Jose because like he's still inexperienced enough where it's going to make them bad for the year still. And they're still
Oh
going to be
yeah.
able to build, you know.
Mhm.
And there's a good chance that they end up getting that Vegas first back. Like, I'll be honest with you, dude, I'm not confident in Vegas at all. They may fall flat on their face because of how much
Oh,
they've lost.
easily. They took it on the chin lately. They have been.
Yeah,
It's been
they
tough
got
for them.
yeah, they've been getting rocked. Like their depth took such a massive hit that it's gonna be extremely difficult for them to um it's gonna be extremely difficult for them to be able to like overcome that, in my opinion. I don't care how many great players you have, it's gonna be hard for them to figure that out. Because like they have Hurdle and Eichel playing with a bunch of randoms, basically.
Essentially, yeah.
You know? And this sets up interesting for San Jose. They're carrying three goalies right now. I know that the Canucks are looking for a goalie.
Mhm.
The only issue is I don't know if any of these guys are in their price range though, simply because you're they're going to need major salary retention on Blackwood or um Vanacek in order to make it work. And the Sharks have no retention spots left because they're retaining money on Carlson, Tomas Hurdle, and Brent Burns. So
Yeah.
it's actually
Good luck with that.
impressive. Yeah, it's actually impressive how decent the Sharks look on paper for in terms of their forward group. I know a lot of it's a lot of young guys, but it's impressive how much they've been able to do with almost $8 million of dead cap on the books.
It has been pretty impressive. Credit to Mike Greer for throwing together what he can, you know, based under the circumstances. He's been able to field
Yeah.
at least I won't, I won't call it a decent roster, but given what he's dealing with, yeah,
Yeah.
kudos
You
to him.
know, and the other interesting thing is Nashville has about $3 million in cap space, and they could use
Mm,
another move at some point in the year. And obviously, they still have to sign Juho Parson and Phil Tomasino. But I think at some point in the year, they're going to be striking for a trade because they have Stamkos on the wing right now, but they could just move Stamkos back to center. Like,
easily.
and they have 3 first-round picks this year.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
things still are not looking good in Anaheim, they're going to be the team that goes and gets Frank Vetrano because then
Hmm.
they could run Forsberg, O'Reilly, Nyquist, Vetrano, Stamkos, Marchessault, and then their third line will probably end up being like Tomasino, Tommy Novak, and Luke Evangelista, that's a good third line. And then they have their fourth line figured out because they'll have Parsonen signed at some point, and then they always have good depth. They always do. And there's a solid chance that Zachary Leheroux or Joakim Kamel make the team out of training camp, and that makes their bottom six even more interesting. I think that I think that I think as it sits right now, the Predators have a very, very good chance of winning the Stanley Cup this year.
They definitely got the pieces to get it done. I mean, bringing Stamkos into the fold was obviously huge. But like you mentioned, all those depth pieces that they have now, plus the $3 million in cap space, and Nashville could do something really scary this year.
Yeah. And the way that I see this is like you measure how good a team is based on how many captain material players they have on their roster.
They got plenty.
Stamkos, Marchessault, O'Reilly, Philip Forsberg, and Roman Yossi.
Oh yeah,
You know,
plenty of leadership in that room.
and even though, you know, he's not a great player anymore, Luke Shen has a lot of great leadership qualities. You know, I
Easy guy to get to easy guy to gravitate towards easily.
Yeah, yeah. Fairly similar to what the Penguins have this year in Kevin Hayes.
Absolutely.
That's twofold good for the Penguins because he has that Kessel bubbly personality, but he's also so good with young guys.
Oh yeah.
So, um, is there anything that I missed that we need to touch on? I'm trying to think. I don't know.
Austin Matthews getting the captaincy for Toronto. We can mention that real quick.
Shit, that's actually a good one. Yeah.
hmm
So Matthews is now the captain in Toronto. Um, Tavares, I guess, surrendered it and gave it to him or something like that. You see this happen from time to time with more veteran players and like a real young guy that like takes the reins. We saw this happen with Logan Couture, with Thornton and Patrick Marleau.
Oh, that happened all the time in San Jose. I remember it was
Dude,
like
like I know.
yeah, it went like it was like it was Marlowe and then Thornton took it. They took it off of him.
It
Did Joe
went it
Pavelski
was
have it at one point? Am I going crazy? Did Pavelski have it at one
No. So
point?
I think it went Marlowe, Rob Blake, Thornton, um, Joe Pavelski, and then Couture. I'm pretty sure in 16 the C was on Joe Pavelski's chest. I'm pretty sure. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I'm
Let's
pretty
see
sure.
here. I'm pulling them up right now because it's gonna drive me nuts if I don't look at it.
I know it's gonna
All
drive
right,
me insane
so
too.
Marlowe had it from '04 to '09. Rob Blake had that one year at '09-10. Thornton had it from 10 to 14. They went without it for one season. Then Pavelski had it from 15 to 19, and Couture's had it since. So
That's
SC has seen
impressive that I just
a
did
lot of
that off
teal.
the top of my head.
That was very good.
Um, and then the other notable one was Rod Brindamore handed it off to Eric Stahl.
Oh yeah, true.
You know, no, but the Leafs are going to be interesting this year. That's something I really didn't fully touch on is they have like no cap space right now. Nick Robertson's still in RFA. He apparently requested a trade out of Toronto and isn't accepting a QO. Something is going to have to give here with that within the next 4 to 6 weeks. So basically, you know, go be a villain, Kyle Dubas. Go be a villain.
Take what's yours. Take what's yours.
Bring me what I want. Because you know this since the day we started this damn podcast. Die hard Nick Robertson guy.
Huge Nick Robertson guy I'm looking at right now.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I just think that it would be so good for them to do that. You know, pull up, get them. Because the only way you're going to get them is by doing an offer sheet. Like there's no other way,
Right.
you know.
Yeah,
But it's also kind of difficult simply because like you're running out of spots.
it's true.
Like there's a fairly good chance that Houston may not even be in the opening night lineup,
Which is crazy
depending
to think,
on
but
what
yeah,
happens. Like depending on what happens, like if they're able to move Achari or move Eller or move both,
right.
you know.
hmm
I think you find a way to move both, and then like you just kind of do whatever with the,
Yeah.
you know, because you can make the argument too that McGroarty would look great with Malkin.
It could.
You can make that argument that like that could shift Bunting to the right wing, and they just, that
Yep.
kind of ends up like how it was when he was playing with Fedotenko and Peter Sikora,
That's right. Yeah.
you know. So
Hmm.
it's going to be an interesting thing to monitor. Um, it's also kind of hilarious that they're not signing Nick Robertson and have apparently like made him so angry that he wants traded out of the organization when they're going to try and magically run Bobby McMahon in the top six this year. Make that make sense.
Yeah. They'll find a way.
Yeah,
They'll
it's
find a way.
crazy.
They always do.
It's crazy. All right. So other than that, I think we have it all covered. Let me double check real quick. No notifications on my phone. Nothing happened while we were recording. So there we go. All right, guys. This has been another episode of Forechecking TV. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Forechecking TV and subscribe to us on YouTube. Thank you guys and goodbye.